Now I just need to see a presentation. Hopefully it'll work. Good morning, everybody. It's an honor to be here today. And I just want to address something that Ben said earlier, the technology that changes your world. And I'm kind of afraid to admit it, that the technology that probably changed my life probably existed before most of those people in the room were born. The technology that changed my life was a bulletin board system. In 1983, I custom coded a bulletin board system, and I realized back then that I could change just a few things, and I could change the way people flowed through the experience. And that's what guided me for the fortune I've had over the last 30 years of my career to work with companies like Google and Microsoft and JP Morgan Chase and just so many different companies. But today, I'm here to address the bigger story. Where we are in the world with AI, because I've seen this play out before in the early days of the internet. And I want to share one very cautionary tale. That even the smartest AI can't fix a broken story. And it can't replace a human team that doesn't believe it. Let's talk about storytelling. Where does storytelling even come in? Why is it so important? And I'm not going to talk about storytelling the way most people talk about storytelling today. I'm going to share some interesting research that I've done. But the most important thing you have to understand about storytelling is that we are the only species on Earth that can count our survival on the power of story. Why did we share stories? We shared stories so we knew there was danger ahead. This is a way we could go through, the hills and be safe. What happened is we created bonds. We created relationships, coming together at the end of the day around the fire and sharing our stories. And those bonds is what good marketing is meant to do. But unfortunately, too many people have treated storytelling the wrong way. And today, it is getting way, way too confusing and way too much noise. Back in 2007, my brother and I, my brother Jeffrey here, had the honor of coming to Turkey for the first time in our lives. And we grew up listening to our grandfather share stories of him growing up, jumping off the bridge, in Galata Bridge, over 100 years ago. Yeah, so I'm a quarter Turkish. And he told those stories, and they impacted us tremendously. And one of the things I remember most when it was here 20 years ago was first being able to connect that tradition of his story, of what he lived through when he grew up as a little boy jumping into the Bosphorus. That's not the storytelling I'm here to share today. What I'm here today to talk about is the stories that sell, that persuade. Even in the Grand Bazaar, they know one key fact. Facts tell, but stories sell. Okay? They're not talking about the ingredients. They're not talking about how much it costs. They're really talking about what's the story behind the product. And what I'm seeing in the marketing world today, especially the way people are using AI. How many people here have played around with the new app Sora yet, where you can create all these crazy videos? We've got like 3-4 hands in the room. We can create all kinds of crazy videos. But if you don't understand the fundamentals of what a great story is supposed to do, you're just creating more noise. It's kind of like Salt Bae, just sprinkling salt on top of the steak, but you're not serving the steak. And we see this over and over again. One classic example, Target several years ago tried to launch a campaign around advocacy. The same and similar campaign that ice cream brand Ben & Jerry's did. Ben & Jerry's succeeded, and Target lost billions of dollars. Why? Because the story was broken. And today, what AI is doing is trampling us with noise. When I was growing up, there were studies out there that said that the average person would hear about 500 marketing messages a day. When I was here 20 years ago, do you know how many marketing messages we would hear in a day? About 5,000. Since the invention of the scroll, TikTok, Shorts, YouTube Reels, all of that, do you know how many marketing messages we hear on average a day today? Over 15,000. Just think about all that noise. How are we supposed to get through? How are we supposed to get our messages across when people are inundated with so much noise that it's just completely frustrating? Not only do they feel like they were trampled by an elephant, but many, like myself, 20 years ago, just when, shortly after I left here in Turkey, I found myself weighing 125 kilos. I was frustrated. I had grown our agency. We had invented the practice of conversion rate optimization. I had worked with some of the biggest brands across the world. And it's not that I didn't know what I needed to do in order to lose weight. Because what do you have to do to lose weight? Eat less, move more. That's it. We almost all know what it is. We all know what great marketing is. We all know what a great customer experience is. So why do we struggle to deliver it? Because it's the stories we sell ourselves. Shortly after I returned from the trip here, I got home and I realized I couldn't live this way. I ended up losing over 40 kilos. And I told myself the story that I had 3 little kids at home and I needed to find a way that the success didn't matter if I couldn't keep up with my kids. And so the 40 kilos came off. And it was July of last year where slowly I started seeing about 20 of those kilos come back up. And I went and I got my annual blood test, and my blood sugar was 3 times the normal amount. I was walking over 9,000 steps a day. I was eating plant-based. I thought I was doing everything right. But I needed the shock of reality to realize that my story was broken. I was broken. And it took 4 months of making some very simple changes, getting some new data to tell me a new story. This happens not only in personal life, but in business as well. And I just want to give one simple example. We went ahead and we worked with Google. Google brought us in because they wanted us to help their AdWords for small business globally. And in one corner, we had all the technologists, the IT people, the engineers, who would say, never underestimate your users. They're very intelligent. Great, that's wonderful. But then we'd go to the other office, to the VP of the marketing person who brought us in. And on his wall, he had a thumbtack with a letter, with a money order, and a CD from a gentleman asking them if he could please put his ads on Google. Does everyone see the disconnect? You can't believe that the user understands everything and that the next minute realize this man is sending a CD to try to put ads on AdWords. And the teams didn't see it. And it was our job to align those stories. And once we aligned those stories, they saw a 10-digit lift in optimization. Just aligning the stories. So what are these stories? These are not the same stories of the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talks about, but the stories about understanding our customers and creating empathy for understanding where our customers are coming from. Because even if a character never speaks, if you design the character, the persona, the mask so well that you understand where they're coming from. And this is where most businesses struggle today. In order to succeed today, we must create perfect alignment between our internal stories and our external marketing messages. Our story, our actions, and our beliefs must align to be truly authentic. And then to top it all off, we can't feed it to them like we're trying to give them a big elephant. Because have you ever tried to swallow an elephant? It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, if you want to swallow an elephant, here, you can swallow that one. Whoop, did I get it in the water? It's a tiny elephant. That one you can swallow. But we need to align the stories. So what I'm going to do today is brand new research I haven't shared anywhere across the globe. I haven't written about this. I haven't done anything about this. But what I've identified is that there are 16 story types, okay, that businesses can tell first internally and then turn to external marketing messages. Now, what I've done with all of these, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about every single one of these stories because we'd be here all day. But I share with you a brand that's well known for using that type of story, as well as other brands that we've worked with that have told that type of story. And pay attention to this brand right here because I'm going to come back to him a little later on. The first type of stories are these foundational stories. These are the stories you must get right. The first one, the origin story. How did we come to exist? Why do we exist? And then your belief story. Okay, and I'm going to go into a lot more detail about the beliefs later because it's so important. The second types of stories are the challenge and vision stories. Stories like Nordstrom, where there's a story that goes around, what we call a legend, right, of a gentleman who walks into their store in Alaska and says, I want to return some snow tires. Nordstrom sells clothes, not tires, but they refunded him the money anyway. And that story goes over and over again. Or the story of the Ritz-Carlton, right, where this poor young boy left his stuffed giraffe there, and instead of just sending it home with him, they took him all over the resort and took pictures of him standing on the chair or on the golf cart, getting a massage, right, and sent it back to the young child. And those stories get shared every single week, stories like this where they're impacting their customers because it shows them how you handle crises and how you see the world. Product creation and proof narratives. These are very hard to pull off. You have to be truly exceptional at creating products to do this. But if you look at companies like Dyson, when they reinvented the vacuum cleaner, and the story he told around why the vacuum cleaner didn't work, or ChatGPT is another great example of a great product story, okay? And then, of course, are your customer stories. How customers like me use your products, right? Why they choose you. Why you exist beyond profit. And this is where Target and Ben & Jerry's fell apart. How many of you believe Target exists for any other reason than to make a profit? You don't. So when they want to tell a story that they're all about advocacy and all of this, it doesn't really connect. The same thing would happen with Walmart. One of the greatest examples of this today, and I'm sure you might not have seen it here, but in the United States, and it's starting to get in Europe as well, the Savannah bananas. And I was very fortunate in 2019 to get a nice little note from the owner of the Savannah bananas who read my book, Be Like Amazon. And he said it inspired his fans first mentality. But more than that, his we believe statements have become part of his everyday vocabulary. I'm going to help you get that everyday vocabulary as well. Or Toms, right? Or Bombas, who give socks away for everyone that's bought. Transformation stories. How you transform the community or how you transform your clients, okay? These are incredibly powerful. This is, for example, a friend of mine. He's a physical therapist and a coach, and he takes young kids, really good, and he shows them how to move, little exercises to move like professional baseball players. And he's succeeded out of nowhere just by putting the stories together of what it could look like if you practice these moves. Create a huge story. Stories that show your soul, your deep beliefs, okay? Again, I talked about Ben & Jerry's, what it's like behind the scenes. They talk about how they sometimes create the products. Zappos, if you've ever been to Las Vegas and got a chance to see their call center and how they operate so differently. Or companies like Levi's that have existed for 150 years and what they're trying to do for their legacy. And then the stories that show that you serve your customers well. Companies like REI, prove their values, like what they believe in, but they put it into action. They tell you not to shop at times of the year. Dove, right? What true beauty is, okay? Teaching stories. And then, of course, there are clarifying stories. The humble failures. They made a mistake, Nintendo did, and they released the Switch, and that shot them back into popularity. And of course, Netflix, right, which launched around, it was the video store in a box, essentially, right, and through the mail. But here's the question I ultimately have for most of you. When you think about these two brands, what's the difference between the two of them? Let's not forget one of them sells nearly twice as much as the other. But what's the difference between these two brands? Ben, you've got a mic. What do you think?
The difference is one makes you feel, Nike makes you feel something.
Nike makes you feel something. Yeah, that's part of it. So I just shared with you 16 different story types. How many of these story types do you think Nike has used in their existence? Want to take a guess? Every single one of them, correct. How many has Adidas used? About 4 or 5. 4 or 5. Now, am I telling you that you'll be able to use all 16 stories? No. But 10, 12, 8? Yes. But the first thing is to start telling those stories internally. And make sure that then you can know how to tell it externally. If your team is not there because they believe your story, you just have warm bodies. You don't have people who care. And in order to succeed today, we have to connect to them at an emotional level, in an authentic level. Jeff Bezos, as I mentioned, I wrote a book called Be Like Amazon, Even a Lemonade Stand Can Do It. And I purposely chose the first name of the domain, not Amazon, because I think it reflects a lot of his personality. And he said, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. I was invited many years ago, after I spoke at a search engine conference, to speak to all the engineers at Microsoft. And my job was to explain to them in human terms, not technology terms, what relevance is. See, the key to storytelling is stories mean something to us. It's our operating system. It's the best UX you can have as an organization, is if all your stories are aligned. Because when we walked into Universal Orlando, that had a wall larger than this stage, full of research, that told them everything about where their customers came from, how much they made every year, how many kids they have, what kind of cars they had, where they traveled to. Told them everything. But it didn't tell them why, when people walked to the front of the studio and we started doing studies with them, if we mentioned the rides with Dr. Seuss, they completely hated the experience. They couldn't understand that. We could. And we helped them do that. And the reason Universal Orlando came to us is because Al was frustrated. Al had swallowed the elephant. 2 times he was told he needed to improve the conversion rate of his website, and he could not increase the conversion rate even by 10%. And he told us that if we couldn't find a way to increase conversions by 10%, he'd be fired. And so we went ahead and we did that research. We took the time to align the stories of what customers expected when they came there instead of Disney, okay, and what they were actually going to experience and what they actually enjoyed about Universal Orlando's theme park. We increased their conversion rates by over 80%, and he didn't even finish the full implementation. What AI is doing today in search, and this is what I explained to the engineers, over the last 20 years, since you mentioned Google and how much Google changed your life, Google's job was to organize the world or information in the way that reflected the real world. And that used to be what you would say about your company. And they take whatever other people link to you, and they take your information and share it as truth. But if you look at what the AI is doing today, they're tapping into Reddit. They're tapping into reviews. It's no longer what you want to say about your business. It's what your customers have to say about your business and your brand. That's the true change that's occurring right now. How do you change what your customers say about your brand? You create a unified experience, a story that travels from one person to the next person to the next person, just the same way those legends used to around the campfire. So how do I know we don't do that? Bain did a study where they asked 376 executives, how many of you believe that you provide a superior customer experience? And those executives said, 80%, we provide a superior experience. I want to know what the other 20% were thinking, to be honest. But then they went ahead and they asked the customers of those same companies, how many of you would say that this company provides a superior customer experience? So first I'll ask you, please raise your hand. How many of you believe that your company provides a superior customer experience? Raise your hand. Okay, I see about 5 hands, so maybe I understand the 80%. Now, if they asked your customers, and they asked their customers, what percent of those customers believed that they provided a superior customer experience? Anyone want to take a guess? 12%? It's close. 8%. That's a delivery gap that we're experiencing today. Inc. did a study where they asked executives how many of their top people can express the top 3 priorities of their organization. Think about that question for yourself. How many people on your team can express the top 3 priorities of your team? They answered, I believe at least 64% of them could do that. You know what the reality was? 2%. How do we fix that? With our stories. Our stories reflect our values. Many of you heard, and we wrote about this in Be Like Amazon, the famous Simon Sinek TED Talk, where he talked about start with why. And so many people got this wrong because it's not about the why, it's the beliefs. If you listen to his speech closely, he repeats the word belief over 12 times. What do you believe? Our beliefs reflect our actions. And if your organization does not believe the same thing, it does not believe the same goals, it does not believe the same values, you're going to fragment your business. So I want to kind of sum up and give you the example of how to make this work with a very, very boring business. Because I could have chosen any business in the world to show the examples of how to use these stories to build your business and to build a brand, especially in an AI world. But I want to introduce you to my friend Ken Goodrich. Also an inspiration because he himself lost a ton of weight and started a group on Facebook for people in the trades, plumbers, electricians, heating and air conditioning people, who also wanted to join him in this weight loss journey, and I'm proud to be part of that group. What's the difference between one air conditioning company and another air conditioning company? Nothing. Nothing really. But here Ken built a $100 million HVAC company out of Arizona. Then he expanded a few other places. He's now no longer with it. So what's his secret? Ken built it with 2 stories. The first one you can already see on his trucks. That's part of his origin story. because he wanted to be sure that when everybody worked for his company, they understood the priorities. Because all the little actions we do, the micro actions, because it's not about swallowing the elephant whole. Because do you know how you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, one story at a time. It's the same as the little micro actions. All of these count by beliefs. Persuasion is about changing those beliefs, those little stories. So what did he do? I'm going to share with you a small video about Gettle. The first one that I want to point to is that when you looked at their logo, you saw a picture of a young boy holding a flashlight. That young boy holding the flashlight was Ken. Because Ken grew up around his dad, who owned an air conditioning company, and his father would take him on jobs, and he'd have him hold the flashlight. And that's how he learned the trade. But what I'm going to share with you in this video, more than anything, is what Ken believes an air conditioning company should look like, work like, and operate like. And any single time someone from their company shows up in your home, you know exactly what they value because they share it here.
I'm Ken Goodrich, and I want you to know what we at Gettle Air Conditioning believe in.
We believe in doing things the right way, not the easy way.
We believe in going when the customer needs us, not when it's convenient for us.
We believe in showing up on time.
We believe in sweating the details.
We believe in eliminating every squeak, rattle, and roll.
Because if you don't, bigger problems will come.
We believe in supporting each other, sharing information,
Asking questions and
being a crew.
We believe in getting the job done, and no excuse is acceptable.
We believe in making sure the customer is happy and do whatever it takes to make the customer happy.
we believe in leaving everything we do better than when we got there.
We believe in super sealing the air ducts because no one needs to air condition their attic.
We believe in respecting your home, wearing shoe covers, not leaving fingerprints.
And we clean up after the work is done.
We believe in installing everything level, plumb, and square because
This is the signature of a superior technician.
We believe every customer deserves our very best work.
We believe in acting with urgency and compassion.
We believe in having fun at work.
We believe in helping our community.
We believe this is not a job, it's our passion.
We believe that transparency and communication are important.
We believe in being authentic.
We believe in replacing every screw, even the ones the last people left out.
So that we can tighten the unit up like new.
we believe in replacing the smoke detector batteries to keep your family safe, no charge.
9-volt batteries, small thing to keep your family safe at night.
We believe in training our crew every single day.
We believe in making friends every single day.
We believe in making RAC installations a piece of art in your home.
We believe in making air conditioners last longer.
We believe in air conditioning rejuvenation.
We believe in drug-tested, background-checked, clean-cut, SATI certified technicians.
We believe in lighting up the darkness with ghetto flashlights.
We believe in Boo Boo Kitty.
We believe in the wheat and Greeton.
And we believe in boom,
Boom!
And we believe in wiggling like a puppy.
boom, with gusto and emphasis. Boom,
Boom.
How many people here would hire Gettle? Yeah. They've created a culture that's second to none. And they've done the little things because it's the little things that help customers notice that you pay attention to those little things. Like they talked about changing all of the batteries in the smoke detectors. It's not part of their job, but it costs nothing. Those flashlights, there are kids who chase the truck in neighborhoods just to stop the drivers because they give out those flashlights. They've created such a great brand. But they did the one most important innovation, true innovation, that no AI could ever come up with. They showed it to you, but you probably missed it. The one thing Ken believed more than anything else, because his dad taught him that if you work on an air conditioner, every screw needs to be completely tightened because any little vibration can cause damage to the machine. But here's the problem. They can believe it. The technician can believe it. But if the customer can't observe it, does it really exist? Our job as marketers is to create a story world where both the customer and us can live. It's our human ability. We all have lived in the world of Star Wars. We've all lived in the world of Harry Potter. So how do we live in the world of Gettle? Well, very simple. He changed all the screws to be bright red. Because the typical air conditioner screw is silver or gold. He changed them to bright red. Why? Because anybody could walk outside and look at the air conditioner and notice right away that the screws were changed. And if they weren't bright, shiny red, they weren't touched. And so they needed to be replaced. That helped his team, but more importantly, helped his customer understand the story. So I want to share with you how to get your belief story together. And so I'm going to share with you a little homework. Sorry, I was a former teacher. But how do we find that story? So please take pictures of it. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to have your own answers for this. But do this with different teams. And let each team do this on their own. And like companies like Google and Universal Orlando, you may find that what they believe about their customers, what they believe the problem is, especially in tech companies, are completely different than what you may believe the problem is. I want you to go ahead and start collecting these. Do this on your own. Find 10 or 12 true sentences that can be observed by your customers. And if it's something you believe in that they can't observe yet, what can you do, like a red screw, to make sure they can see it? This is how you build a great brand today. It's not with fancy AI and powerful pyrotechnics and all kinds of gimmicks. It's the simple things. So start asking yourself, what is it you believe about your customer? What is it you believe about the problem you're solving? What is it that the world needs more or less of? What belief do you hold that your competitors don't? And then lastly, what would you fight for, even if it wasn't profitable? Do you have real values? Then you start sharing those stories. And I've seen this in everything from doctors' offices to plumbers to giant tech corps. It does not matter. These techniques have accounted for billions of dollars in increased sales just when we can align these stories. That's the secret sauce. Nothing fancy. Okay? AI can enhance your story. They can make it more pretty. They can make it more engaging. But they can't connect to the human. They can't replace these beliefs and these values. So how are we going to step forward today? We have a very full agenda, correct, Ben? Very full agenda. I'm very excited to be here for the rest of the day to learn more with you. But the key to success is the same I learned about how to lose 40 kilos. Do you know how to lose 40 kilos? 1 kilo at a time, one decision at a time, one bite at a time, one story at a time. And so I'm going to ask you all as well to start thinking of the elephant as something that you can control. Because today the world does feel very overwhelming. We have so many messages, so many things pulling our attention. Whether it's the global economic environment, the political environment, all the noise, all the new technology every single day, a new algorithm, a new app, a new dashboard, Meta changing their algorithms, Google changing the way they want to do things. Don't worry about it. Focus on the elephant and just take one bite, one story at a time. Thank you very much. Have an elephant.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much.